With the world tree in mind, Wen Dao opens up a world as an experimental field, sows the seeds of life, opens up the wisdom of all beings, and leads the development of civilization. The creatures of all races are just experimental objects in his hands, used to verify the countless cultivation systems and condense the brilliant fruits of civilization in the world of martial arts. He dreamed of preaching to Wuzi and starting the extraordinary journey. In the world of Taoism, he transformed into an ancient Taoist deity and bestowed the 3 heavenly masters with the Wuzi Heavenly Book, creating a Taoist system. In the magical world, he incarnates as a deity, bestows the philosopher's stone, and spreads the path of magic. In the world of demons and demons, he bestowed the path of incense and fire, as well as the method of sealing gods, to forge the heavenly and earthly realms, and the path of immortality. Rune world, Mother River world, Duki world, martial soul world. After the endless era, upon hearing this, looking back on the past, he unknowingly opened up countless realms in the heavens, where immortals, gods, Buddhas, and demons were no match for his chess pieces. He is the cultivator of the civilizations of the heavens. Keywords of the novel. Zhutian. Civilization cultivator. No pop-ups, Zhutian. Civilization cultivator TXT complete collection download, Zhutian. Civilization cultivator latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Chaowen Dao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Chaowen Dao. Mount Taishan, the first of the 5 mountains in China, is known as the best mountain in the world. It is towering and magnificent. The scorching summer heat is unbearable, but it cannot stop tourists from climbing and playing. Among the tourists, a group of young people came to Mount Taishan and began to climb the most famous mountain in China. These young people are students of the literature department of Mordor University. They came to Mount Taishan for a group tour during the May Day holiday to see the charm of the famous mountains in China. They stopped and walked all the way, taking pictures of the unique scenery of Mount Taishan, and visiting the places of interest, steles, stone carvings, and ancient temples and Taoist temples left by scholars of all dynasties along the way. At dusk, they finally reached the top of Mount Taishan. Yuhuangding. At this time, the sunset, one of the 4 wonders of Mount Taishan, appeared. There are clouds and mist billowing in Mount Taishan and the surrounding mountains. At the end of the sky, the sun sets in the west, and golden lights pierce the clouds and fog, like graceful gauze covering the world. The beauty is intoxicating. How beautiful! Looking at the extraordinary sight before her, a girl exclaimed in admiration and immediately picked up the camera to record it. Seeing this, the students from the literature department on the side quickly requested the girl to help them take some photos as well. Kaka kaka. Suddenly, the girl who was filming noticed a figure whose behavior was completely different from that of a nearby tourist. That is a boy about 20 years old, with an incredibly handsome appearance, soared eyebrows and starry eyes, a face like a crown of jade, and almost perfect facial features. A poetic line flashed through the girl's heart in an instant. A stranger is like a jade, a gentleman is unparalleled in the world. Although the boy is dressed in modern casual clothing, his temperament is calm and elegant, just like the elegant young master walking out of ancient paintings. Especially under the golden glow of the sunset, it feels as if heaven and earth have descended, and it is so handsome that no one can see it. Seeing this, the girl with a pounding heart couldn't help but pick up the camera in her hand, wanting to capture this scene in a photo. The boy seemed to be aware of it, turned around to glance at the girl, nodded slightly, and then walked towards other areas. The girl's cheeks turned red with a brush, and she didn't expect her capture to be caught. But in reality, the extremely handsome man didn't care at all and walked alone on the Jade Emperor's peak. Wen Dao has been in this parallel world called Zuxing for 20 years. This world, like the previous Earth, is an ordinary technological world, with a technological level in the 21st century and no trace of extraordinary power. As a traveler, besides losing both parents at birth, Wen Dao's experience over the past 20 years is quite good. In the first 15 years, Wen Dao gained the title of a genius with his extraordinary memory and knowledge from the previous life. At a young age, he directly entered the youth class of the highest university in Zhutia. Over the next 5 years, with the long silent, golden finger, in my mind, a glimmer of strength awakened. Wen Dao quickly earned a considerable amount of money, and now his net worth has reached several small goals. As for why Wen Dao came to Mount Taishan, there was a reason. I hope my inference is not wrong and can completely awaken it today. Arriving at a certain point on the Jade Emperor's peak, Wen Dao stopped and stood in place, his eyes tightly closed, as if he was experiencing something. The land of Huaxia Fengshan. With a tremble of the golden finger in his soul, he quickly fell into a state of emptiness and enlightenment, and all the noise around him dissipated without a trace. He carefully felt the cultural heritage left by China on Mount Taishan for 5,000 years, as well as the historical traces of countless outstanding people. For a moment, the consciousness of hearing the Tao seemed to have entered the long river of history. He saw the first emperor and other ancient emperors offering sacrifices at the Jade Emperor's summit in Mount Taishan. I have seen countless literati inscribing poems on Mount Taishan Mountain to praise the majesty of Mount Taishan Mountain. They also saw that the people of Mount Taishan regard it as the residence of gods for worship. Wisps of intangible and immaterial Zhutia civilization breath flew from all parts of Mount Taishan Mountain, disappeared into the body of Taoism, and gathered into a green seed in its soul. Chaos Spirit Root, World Tree Seed. This is the golden finger that smells the way. Unfortunately, due to the fact that this parallel world is a pure physical universe and a demon-free world, there is no supernatural force present. Before the age of 15, as a migrant and illegal immigrant, the world tree seed was suppressed by the physical rules of this world and could not move a single bit. So he couldn't even feel the existence of a world tree seed in his soul. At the age of 15, the seeds of the world tree fully merged with their souls, indistinguishable from each other, and completely transformed into the shape of Wen Dao. At this point, the world tree seed is like obtaining a temporary residence permit for this realm through the relationship of the Wen Dao, allowing the physical rules of this realm to relax their suppression a bit. So the seeds of the world tree showed signs of sprouting and awakened a faint force, allowing Wen Dao to take control. But the identity obtained by the world tree seed can only allow it to achieve this step. If you want the seeds of the world tree to sprout smoothly and unleash all your strength, you need better proof of identity. Compared to such a permanent resident certificate, the world tree seed has been fully recognized by the rules of the universe. This is also the reason why Wen Dao came to Mount Taishan. After continuous deduction, Wen Dao tried countless methods but failed to further unleash the power of the world tree seed. In the end, Wen Dao suddenly remembered that there were two paths for the world tree to grow. One is to constantly open up the world, allowing it to grow and elevate, which is the path to creation. The more worlds opened up by the world tree, the higher the level, the more energy can be fed back. One is to create life and cultivate civilization within the opened world, which is the path to civilization. Similarly, the more prosperous and advanced a cultivated civilization is, the more energy the world tree can receive in return. But now the seeds of the world tree have not even sprouted, so naturally it is impossible to open up the world and cultivate civilization. But Wen Dao took a different path and came up with another one. Although it is said that this world is a demon-free world, civilization still exists. If civilization exists, it can naturally be utilized by Wen Dao. As long as the power of the awakening of the world tree is used as a lever to extract the wisdom of the civilization of the ancestral star Zhutia kingdom, which has lasted for 5,000 years, and condensed the seeds of Zhutia civilization. With it as the key, by suppressing and blocking the rules of this realm and opening a crack, the seeds of the world tree can take the opportunity to sprout and become seedlings of the world tree. This is the most likely way to fully sprout the seeds of the world tree, as inferred from the teachings. And as long as the seed becomes a seedling, then the road behind Wen Dao is naturally a smooth one. Whether it is creating the world or cultivating new civilizations, it has become easy. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. World Tree. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 World Tree. In the past 5 years, Wen Dao has traveled to various famous mountains and ancient cities in Zhutia, flipping through countless ancient books, Taoist collections, and Buddhist scriptures. It can be said that he has read a wide range of books. There are few people in the current Zhutia country who have a better understanding of the history and culture of Zhutia than him. During this process, Wen Dao was also able to collect a vast collection of the cultural atmosphere of the various Xia civilizations. Now when he came to Mount Taishan Mountain, he wanted to follow the example of the ancestors in offering sacrifices. After collecting the cultural atmosphere of this place, cultivate a civilized seed in one fell swoop and break the world's rule blockade. Wen Dao stood on the Jade Emperor's peak of Mount Taishan, and his consciousness was fused with the seed of the world tree in his mind. The intangible and immaterial flavor of Zhu Xia civilization contained on Mount Taishan is constantly integrated into its body as it smells, breathes, and breathes. And the emergence of these civilized atmospheres has brought Wen Dao to its ultimate limit. Within the seeds of the world tree, all the civilized breath absorbed by Wen Dao in the past 5 years has emerged and rolled. In a vague moment, he seemed to see countless figures in it. Yu Chao, Suiren, Fuxi, Tianyuan, Shenong, Shaohao, Zhuanshu, Daiku Laozi, Zhuangzi, Confucius, Xuanzi. Over the past 5,000 years of the Zhuxia civilization, countless ancestors and sages have gone through various experiences and comprehended countless laws and principles. Transformed into a series of sounds, echoing in the mind of Wen Dao, as if they had crossed time and space to explain to him. The well-read hearsay absorbs the essence, discards the dross and refines the wisdom of the ancestors. The excellent spirit and will that have been passed down for thousands of years, such as the indomitable, self-improvement, and benevolent spirit of the Zhuxia tribe, are all absorbed by them. In its soul, next to the seeds of the world tree, an illusory transparent seed gradually takes shape, emitting a breath of time and vicissitudes. Like the weight of history and the vastness of civilization. After some inner struggle, the girl finally made up her mind to approach Wen Dao and ask for a contact information. After all, love starts with a conversation, and as long as you need your contact information, you naturally have the opportunity to take it closer in the future. Looking at Wen Dao a few steps away, the girl hesitated for a moment again and finally mustered the courage to open her mouth and say, "Classmate." Boom! A deafening thunder sounded without warning, immediately startling the crowds of tourists on the Jade Emperor's roof. Countless girls were frightened by the sudden thunder and screamed, causing a brief chaos on the Jade Emperor's roof. What's going on? Why did the cloudless sky suddenly thunder and make such a loud noise? The crowd looked at the sky in disbelief. But there were only a few white clouds floating in the sky, shimmering with a precious luster under the glow of the sunset. There were no traces of lightning at all, and it didn't seem like the weather was about to rain or thunder. After a while, there was no more thunder, and everyone could only mistake the previous scene for a temporary abnormality in the weather. However, after just one scene, and the sunset of Mount Taishan has also ended, tourists began to go down the mountain again and again. The girl, who was also startled by the thunder, took a long breath and patted her flamboyant pectoral muscles to calm her heart, which was pounding with fear. By the way, that boy. She suddenly remembered that she was going to strike up a conversation and needed contact information, and quickly looked at Wen Dao's position. I saw Wen Dao still standing in place, and the previous thunder did not affect him at all. Looking at Wen Dao's figure, the girl blinked her eyes, feeling a bit puzzled. Why does this guy's temperament seem to have changed? If the temperament I had heard before was as elegant as a graceful gentleman, but still had the aura of worldly fireworks. So now, Wen Dao seems to carry a fairy aura, and his temperament has become transcendent and refined, unlike ordinary people. As an excellent photographer, girls have always had a very keen sense, so she can clearly feel the changes in Wen Dao's temperament. But at this moment, she hasn't delved into it either. This time she picked up the camera and walked towards Wen Dao. "Hello classmate, I am a photographer. Can we take a photo together?" At the foot of Mount Taishan, I watched several people disappear in the distance. Wen Dao smiled and casually put away a few brand new photos in his hand. Being approached by a girl, asking for contact information, or even confessing has been a common occurrence for him over the years. Usually, when faced with such things, he politely refuses and does not get involved with anyone. But today he was in a good mood, so he agreed to the girl's request for a group photo and went down the mountain with them. Of course, it's only limited to this. Returning to the presidential suite of a 5-star hotel, I sat cross-legged upon hearing the news, my mind immersed in my soul, and I gazed into the things within. Finally, it's a world tree seedling. Within his soul, the originally emerald green seed suddenly disappeared. Instead, there was a small sapling about 3 inches tall, with 2 vibrant leaves sprouting from the small branches. The tree body is covered with mysterious and complex patterns, emitting a strong Taoist charm. The 2 leaves swayed slightly, and in an instant, endless space rippled. Strands of intangible and intangible power are extracted from unknown places and transformed into their original power. Looking at the seedlings of the world tree, I can't help but feel the indifferent state of mind after 5 years of practicing Taoism. Today, waves couldn't help but rise, and my heart was filled with excitement. At the moment when thunder suddenly sounded on the top of the Jade Emperor of Mount Taishan Mountain. It is precisely at this time that Wen Dao has condensed the seeds of various Xia civilizations, integrated them into the world tree seeds, and allowed the latter's identity to be fully recognized by the rules of this world. The world tree has a permanent residence permit, so the suppression of the world rules on it weakens again, and the seeds take the opportunity to sprout and enter the seedling stage. And in this process, Wen Dao gained tremendous benefits. At the moment when the world tree sprouted, he received the nourishment and baptism of its origin, and the essence of life underwent an unimaginable transformation. Not only does it cleanse the meridians and marrow, transform into a new body, but it also removes all dirt and hidden dangers from the body, transforming a physical body into a non-fouling spiritual body. That's also why the girl noticed a change in her temperament. His essence of life is extraordinary. With the current physical strength of Wen Dao, it can be said that he is invincible, and ordinary hot weapons cannot harm a single hair of his body. Only weapons such as large-caliber snipers or rocket launchers can slightly harm him. Moreover, the soul of Wen Dao has undergone tremendous changes, with the 3 souls and 7 souls condensed countless times, achieving the birth of the Yuan Shen Dao. If placed in the world of cultivation, hearing the Tao is enough for the daytime primordial spirit to emerge from the body and not die. Unfortunately, the world he is in is a physics-free world. For billions of years, there has been no extraordinary mysterious power, and the physical rules are extremely strict. So in Zhutian, apart from his far superior physical fitness, he cannot fully utilize any other strength. Since this world is a demon-free world, I will initiate a spiritual revival and actively nurture an extraordinary soil, allowing the extraordinary system to descend on the ancestral star. The beginning of everything is difficult. Wen Dao's eyes were deep and bright, and he walked to the window to look at the starry sky. Now that the world tree has sprouted smoothly, reached the seedling stage, and crossed the beginning, the layout behind it will be much easier. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Opening up the world. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Opening up the world. Chang'an is a famous ancient capital of 13 dynasties in China. Whether in the past or present life, Wen Dao was born and raised here. Now that we have successfully gathered the seeds of civilization, Wen Dao is also preparing to return to this homeland. At the same time, here begins the first step of his layout. The night is hazy, and the stars are dim. At 9 o'clock in the evening, in a small alley near the antique market in the old city area, Wen Dao stood in front of a building with a style of ancient sound and color. This is Wen Dao's hometown, an antique shop run by his grandfather who raised him. Unfortunately, before he could reach the age of 15 and awaken his golden finger, his grandfather fell seriously ill and passed away. Over the years, Wen Dao has been traveling around, absorbing the cultural atmosphere hidden in various places, so this antique shop has closed and is no longer open. Pushing open the door, there was no scene of dust accumulating into soil as imagined. Instead, it was as smooth as new, incredibly clean, and the interior decoration had been renovated a few years ago. Upon hearing this, it was immediately apparent that it was Jiang Mengru, the CEO of his company, who would send people to clean and repair the antique shop every once in a while. Jiang Jie's work really reassures me, Wen Dao chuckled lightly, closed the store door, and walked up to the second-floor bedroom. It's also time for him to start taking the next step. Sitting cross-legged, I gradually reached the peak of my own energy upon hearing the Tao, and then my mind sank into the world tree within my soul. The 3-inch tall seedlings of the world tree swayed slightly, and the 2 emerald green leaves on top also moved with it. Suddenly, a bright and magnificent momentum spread out from it, like a star falling and the continent tilting. In a daze, upon hearing the Tao, it seemed as if seeing billions of spaces being born and annihilated above a leaf, intending to create a world for life. Upon hearing the Tao, one's heart and mind condense, merging with the world tree, controlling every move and obtaining all its information. The seedlings of the world tree can absorb 70.80 drops of essential energy per day, but the amount consumed per day is also similar, and only 1 or 2 drops of essential energy can be barely saved per day. The world tree is a chaotic spiritual root, skilled in the way of space and the world, in order to barely cross the world membrane of this realm and draw invisible and intangible air currents from the chaotic sea outside the universe. It can also absorb solar energy and various cosmic radiation energy from the starry sky in this realm, and convert them into the power of their origin. But such a small amount of fundamental power can only support the world's tree seedlings for daily consumption here. With the current rate of accumulation, the time it takes to accumulate enough resources for growth and move the world tree from the seedling stage to the growth stage is simply despairing. However, the world's tree seedlings now have about 1 million drops of origin left. Before receiving the seeds of the world tree upon hearing the Tao, it drifted in the chaotic sea for countless years, accumulating a large amount of primordial power. But when Mount Taishan sprouted, the world tree consumed most of its origin in order to break the rule blockade of this world and resist the rule suppression. Only this 1 million yuan is left as the last source of wealth for Wen Dao. This 1 million yuan may seem like a lot, but in fact, it's not very useful when used. If all of it is consumed, it can only increase the seedlings of the world tree by 1 or 2 feet, advance 1 or 2 steps in the seedling stage, and increase the amount of original energy absorbed every day by 1 or 2 times. And this is of no help to Wen Dao's current predicament. So Wen Dao wants to use these origins to create the first lever that leverages the world and usher in a new era. Otherwise, Wen Dao and the world tree seedlings will be suppressed by the physical rules of this, at least 1,000 world-level demon-free world, until their tens of thousands of years of lifespan are exhausted and their strength cannot enter the next great realm. Wen Dao's eyes were deep and dazzling. 1 million drops of the original source is barely enough, so let's start. As soon as I heard the Tao, my heart and mind moved, and 100,000 yuan of energy turned into massive amounts, pouring into a single leaf of the world tree seedling, condensing countless small spaces that were constantly growing and dying into a whole piece. Open. A shout of anger exploded deep in the soul, and the path of creating the world tree was suddenly launched, starting to open up the world for the first time. Another 100,000 sources flooded in, and the newly condensed space suddenly exploded, blooming with endless brilliance and colors. Driven by the rules of the origin and the world tree itself, space rapidly expands in all directions, and its internal volume becomes larger and larger. In just a short time, its diameter reaches nearly 10,000 kilometers. But when viewed from outside, it still looks like the leaves of the world tree seedlings, but the size of half a baby's palm has not changed at all. Like Nesumi in mustard, hiding the sun and moon in a pot. Feeling the physical rules of this demon-free world, I didn't react much to the behavior of the world tree in opening up the world within it. I breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing the news. As I had anticipated, the world tree now has a permanent residency permit, and is considered one of its own, while opening up space is already its innate ability and is carried out within the world tree. All of what I have done is within the limits allowed by the material rules of this realm, and the cost is just that the original consumption is greater. However, this is not over yet. Looking at the gradually stabilizing space in front of him, Wen Dao waved his big hand and hundreds of thousands of primordial beings turned into a towering river tilting in, violently decomposing and burning in the void, transforming into an infinite ocean of material particles and low-level energy tides, flooding the entire space. On the surface of the world tree, veins and patterns light up one by one, and the rules and rhymes of yin, yang, 5 elements, time and space slowly emanate, merging into that space. The extraordinary rules of yin, yang, and 5 elements, such as Taoyuan, each perform their own duties, setting the 4 poles in 8 directions, and performing in countless ways in the world. Infinite matter particles coalesce, soil, air, water sources, minerals, hurricanes, lightning, ice and snow appear one by one, but this space is still chaotic and disorderly. This time, the physical rules finally had a slight reaction, and for a moment, he smelled and felt the increasing pressure around him, as if the entire space was repelling him, trying to erase all the extraordinary aura that contradicted the world. With a chill in his heart upon hearing the Tao, he quickly transformed the extraordinary rules, Taoyuan, and aura of the world tree that had accidentally dissipated due to the creation of all things around him into an ordinary human. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Tianyuan Star. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Tianyuan Star. This method is indeed effective, and the world returns to tranquility once again. Seeing once again concealing the rules of physics, Wen Dao enters the perspective of creation, and consciousness overlooks the entire space, like the heavenly Dao of a world, controlling all changes in it with indifference and rationality, starting to complete the final step of creation. Under his control, various world parameters are set perfectly. Soil condenses into rock crust and mountains and rivers, hot magma flows beneath the crust, water sources converge into lakes, oceans, and countless rivers, mineralization is the burial of various metal veins in the earth, the air rises to form a thick atmosphere. The land of extreme north and extreme south is covered in ice and snow. Various substances aggregate in the best way to form various ecological environments and systems. Not long after, a rocky planet with a radius of about 3,800 kilometers gradually took shape, floating in the center of this newly opened space. Above, an atmosphere thousands of kilometers thick surrounds it, protecting everything on the planet. The ratio of land to ocean area on the surface of the planet is 4.6. In the depths of my soul, amidst the swaying leaves of the tiny world, I propped up this planet, which is slightly larger than Mars. At this point, the consciousness of hearing the Tao departs from the state of creation and the state of absolute rationality fades. Looking at the tiny planet on the world tree, Wen Dao nodded with satisfaction and said, "Everything went smoothly and we successfully created the first world of dust." According to the original information inherited from the seedlings of the world tree, Wen Dao knows that there are infinite worlds within the heavens and realms, which can be roughly divided into the dust world, the constant sand world, the Qiankun world, the small thousand world, the middle thousand world, and the great thousand world. The world of dust, the world of constant sand, and the world of heaven and earth can be collectively referred to as the small world, while the small thousand world, the medium thousand world, and the large thousand world are collectively referred to as the big world. Originally, with the current state of the world tree, the mysteries and profoundness of the myriad rules contained within it can be created even in the world of constant sand. But as the saying goes, a clever woman cannot cook without rice. In the absence of a sufficient source, Wen Dao has no choice but to first create a small world at the level of dust. For the universe, tens of thousands of miles are just a tiny speck of dust. As the first world I created, let's call it the Tianyuan realm, and the planet is naturally called Tianyuan star. Nowadays, Wen Dao still has over 100,000 primordial resources left in his hands, which will be used for the normal consumption and growth of the world tree, as well as to maintain the early operation of this dust world. At least before life is born and civilization is established, this dusty world cannot bring him too much benefits or feed back the seedlings of the world tree. Wen Dao looked at the desolate planet and pondered, is life born? In this regard, Ancestor Star can help me reduce a lot of time. Half a month later. One truck after another arrived with a full load of goods, entering a warehouse in the suburbs, which carried specimens of various animals, plants, bacteria, fungi, or gene fragments and sequences. As night fell, the warehouse covering thousands of square meters was filled with specimen boxes of all sizes. After careful inspection and confirmation of accuracy, a workplace beauty who appeared to be in her early 20s stood behind Wen Dao and conducted a report. "Boss, all the last batch of specimens of animals and plants from Oceania and Antarctica that you requested have been received." Jiang Mengru looked at the handsome young master in front of her and said softly. Wen Dao nodded slightly and said, "Thank you, Sister Jiang." Subsequently, Wen Dao sent Jiang Mengru and the freight driver away, standing alone in the warehouse filled with specimen boxes. Looking at the animal and plant specimens and gene sequences that cost him tens of millions of RMB and were urgently transported by plane from all over the world. Wen Dao's eyes flickered with a brilliant light, and a ripple rose in the surrounding space. Invisible power spread from his mind. In the next moment, all the animal and plant specimens and gene sequences in the specimen box disappear and are devoured and analyzed by the world tree, improving the ancestral star biological gene library in its body. For the past half-month, Wen Dao has relied on his cash flow ability in special channels through a biological research institute he invested in earlier years. We purchased various animal and plant specimens, as well as paleontological fossils from around the world, and handed them over to the world's saplings for ingestion and analysis. With the addition of this last batch of specimens, the gene bank of the world tree now almost encompasses all known ancestors of human beings. This means that the world tree can use its origin to create all the creatures of the ancestral planet, including humans. However, this is meaningless because what Wen Dao wants is a brand new creature that can unleash extraordinary power, and it needs to open up a cultivation system. Even if its mastery of extraordinary power is minimal, once released, it can only blow a leaf and ignite a flame. As long as a part appears, Wen Dao and the world tree can use this to slightly pry the physical rules of this universe, imprinting a seemingly insignificant extraordinary system of laws. So the function of these genes is only to serve as the origin of life in the Tianyuan realm, eliminating the need for them to spend billions of years giving birth to life like their ancestors, making the evolution of life in the Tianyuan realm faster. In the future, the Heavenly Yuan realm will inevitably give birth to its own unique extraordinary creatures. Waiting for Wen Dao to return to the antique shop, the world tree seedlings have thoroughly analyzed the genes of all the creatures on the ancestral planet. Now that everything is ready, we can create life in the Heavenly Yuan realm, Wen Dao smiled. He arrived at an ancient wooden door on the second floor and pushed it in. On the other side of the door, there was not a room, but a towering mountain peak, where the Heavenly Yuan star stood out. The wooden gate was blessed with the power of Wen Dao and became a gateway for crossing boundaries, connecting the ancestral star and Tianyuan star. However, only Wen Dao can pass through this cross-border door, and when others open this door, they can only see and enter an ordinary room. Surrounded by clouds and mist around the mountaintop, the sea was like a tide, and golden ripples rose under the shining sun. Unfortunately, this high mountain is devoid of any green except for rocks and soil, otherwise it would definitely be an extraordinary fairyland and one of the most beautiful places in the world. Wen Dao, who first entered the Tianyuan realm with his physical body, looked up at the sun in the sky. This is a projection condensed by the world tree seedlings using their mastery of the weak law of yang to pull the power of the true sun in the solar system, bringing endless light and heat to Tianyuan star. And higher up in the sky, outside the membranes of the Tianyuan realm, there are endless space storms roaring year-round, with countless small space fragments flying, colliding, and annihilating. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Creating Life. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 5 Creating Life. The spatial structure of this demon-free universe is divided into two parts. One is the main material universe where the ancestral star is located, with strict and powerful physical rules and extremely stable spacetime. The other is the dark universe, or spatial dimensional interlayers, which are interdependent and mapped to each other. The space interlayer is divided into billions of layers, containing countless space debris inside, and the further away from the main material universe, the larger the volume of space debris will be. Space debris is small but big in the palm, while larger ones are several stellar system sizes. Moreover, due to the chaotic motion of space debris, the time flow velocity within this space interlayer is more chaotic compared to the main material universe, some are faster and some are slower. In the past half-month, Wen Dao has been searching for a space fragment in the corresponding position of the ancestral star, which is about the size of the Tianyuan realm but has a time flow velocity hundreds of times faster than the ancestral star. About a year has passed on this piece of space debris, and 1 day has passed on Zhutian. And detached the heavenly Yuan realm from the leaves of the world tree, allowing it to attach to this space fragment, or rather, to this demon-free universe. The purpose of doing so is to make the main universe recognize the orthodox status of the Tianyuan realm, acknowledging that the latter is a part of it and a special celestial body that has evolved naturally, preparing for the addition of extraordinary systems to the main universe in the future. Of course, as the creator god of the Tianyuan realm, Wen Dao still holds the primary authority over the Tianyuan realm. Entering the perspective of creation, Wen Dao's eyes instantly became indifferent, and behind him countless emerald green dots lit up, forming a virtual shadow of a sapling that seemed to support heaven and earth. Each dot of light represents the genetic sequence of a progenitor organism. Using this as a template, Wen Dao effortlessly created countless types of biological cells using their original energy. Then, like an old farmer sowing seeds in spring, he tirelessly scattered them in the vast ocean of the Tianyuan realm, planting the seeds of life. At the same time, the seedlings of the world tree in the depths of the sea swayed slightly, scattering countless original energies and the power of laws such as the laws of creation, life, and evolution. In an instant, an endless breath of life covered the heavens and earth, driving those cells to evolve at an extremely fast speed. Time accelerates 100,000 times. Upon hearing the faint words, he waved his palm and activated the power handle of the creation god, unleashing the power of the law of time. Except for several meters of time and space around the sound path that has not accelerated, the time in other areas is rapidly passing by at a speed of 100,000 times. Combined with the space debris where the Tianyuan realm is located, the time flow velocity itself is hundreds of times faster than that of the ancestral star. So the current day of Zhutian is equivalent to 100,000 years in the Tianyuan realm. If it weren't for the subtle suppression of the material rules of the demon-free universe, Wen Dao could even accelerate the time of the Tianyuan realm to millions, or even faster. After all, who would let Wen Dao be the creator god of the heavenly Yuan realm, possessing all his authority? Of course, this is only in the absence of many creatures and intelligent civilizations born within the Tianyuan realm. When a smart race is born in the future Tianyuan realm, and its civilization level becomes higher and higher, the times that time can accelerate and increase will become lower and lower. Under the continuous supply of energy from the world's tree roots, as well as the driving force of laws such as life, evolution, and creation, and the acceleration of time. In addition, there is a complete biological gene bank in the Tianyuan realm, which does not require a little evolution from scratch like the ancestral star did. You only need to spread the corresponding gene sequence at a specific time by smelling the Tao. With the blessing of 4 buffs in total, earth-shattering changes occur every moment in the Tianyuan realm, and the speed of life evolution is extremely terrifying, like a rocket soaring into the sky. In just one day from the ancestral star, the evolution process of billions of years of life will be completed within the Tianyuan realm. Wen Dao deviated from the perspective of creation and looked satisfied at the Tianyuan realm where life footprints began to appear. He turned around and walked through the door back to the antique shop. Next, I will wait for the evolution of higher organisms within Tianyuan star. Then, I will come out and unlock their wisdom, leading them to develop a new civilization and helping me condense new species of civilization. Chang'an, near the antique market in the old city area. The surrounding residents left early in the morning and saw the antique shop, which had been renovated and renamed as Chaoshi Pavilion, reopening after several years. Many neighbors who have known Wen Dao since childhood have congratulated him on the opening of his new store. Some tourists who come to the antique market to Taoba and are interested in antiques will enter the store for a visit. As for why Wen Dao wants to reopen the Chaoshi Pavilion, it is because this shop was my grandfather's last effort during his lifetime, and my grandfather's last wish was for him to continue operating the antique shop. However, in the first 5 years, I heard that I wanted to activate the World Tree Seed and have been traveling around, unable to manage the morning and night pavilion, so I have been keeping it idle. Now, the World Tree has successfully sprouted and created a world of dust. There is nothing above Zhutian that can attract Wen Dao. So upon hearing this, he reopened the antique shop to fulfill his grandfather's last wish and quietly waited for the development of the Tianyuan realm. Anyway, it's not bad for money to hear the Tao, so there's no need to work hard for life. The Chaoshi Pavilion is not large, about 120 square meters, but inside it, there are all 5 internal organs and everything. There is a yellow rosewood screen facing the door, carved with exquisite patterns. In the store, there are several tables and chairs made of sandalwood and nanmo for guests to rest and taste tea, as well as several red wooden antique racks, on which various antique collections of different sizes are placed. There are jade, porcelain, silverware, copperware, ancient coins, calligraphy in painting, wood carvings, and even a few rusty ancient swords and knives, each labeled with its name, year, and price. Most of these are ordinary antique objects passed down from Grandpa Wen Dao's hands. But the remaining antiques were collected through various means during the 5 years of traveling south and north by Wen Dao. After all, there are world tree seeds that can absorb the breath of civilization, and one can easily feel some antiques buried deep underground or collected by people, but with extremely deep cultural heritage and containing the breath of civilization. So the antiques that are eligible to be collected by Wen Dao to the Chaoshi Pavilion, each of which has been passed down for at least 400 to 500 years, are of great value. But nowadays, except for Wen Dao, no one else knows that there are hundreds of precious antique artifacts in this small alley antique shop. Seeing antique items with 5, 6, or even 7 digits on the shelf, everyone laughed and shook their heads. In such a small alley antique shop, what good thing could there be that dares to be priced so high? The prices of antique items on other shelves are relatively normal. Sitting on the Grand Tutor's chair, Wen Dao didn't care either. He leisurely brewed a pot of good tea and savored it with his eyes slightly narrowed, allowing everyone to watch. However, he secretly opened a virtual panel named Creation System to check the development of the Tianyuan realm during this period. Master. Wen Dao identity. Creator, and Lord of the World Tree creating the world. Tianyuan realm, lower level dust world, civilization achievements. Seed of civilization, 1 piece, number of sources. 18483 drops World Journal. The creation system is a tool specially created by Wen Dao to assist him in managing the world he has created, using a portion of his soul's subconscious, combined with the creation rules of the world tree and the heavenly Dao laws of the heavenly Yuan realm. With the help of the creation system, Wen Dao can more easily understand the various changes within the Tianyuan realm and better manage it. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. World Journal. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 World Journal. For example, the world log that Wen Dao is currently watching is a documentary edited by the creation system that shows some exciting scenes of the 700,000 years of biological evolution in the Tianyuan realm, lasting more than 10 hours, for Wen Dao to watch. Clearly tell him what happened within the Tianyuan realm during this period of time acceleration. Tianyuan World Log. In the first year, the Creator God created Tianyuan star, created the sky, earth, and ocean, and created all things in the world. Subsequently, the Creator God sowed the seeds of life, giving birth to the first primitive cell, which directly propelled the development of the heavenly Yuan realm forward by a small step, strengthening the laws of life, creation, and soul related to heaven and earth. As the sun and moon rotate, time flies like a shuttle. At the 300,000-year mark of the Tianyuan star, multicellular life began to emerge and took to the world stage. Countless prehistoric creatures emerged one after another, ushering in a life explosion similar to the Cambrian era of the ancestral star in the 520,000-year. Primitive algae, mollusks, coelenterate, invertebrates, arthropods, chordates, and fish vertebrates evolved one after another, becoming the hegemons in the Tianyuan realm in the 675th year. Mosses, ferns, and amphibians landed on land and began a new path of evolution. Wen Dao saw that during his 7 days on the planet Zhutian, the oceans and land of Tianyuan gradually transformed from a desolate brown-yellow to a vibrant emerald green. The oxygen content in the air continued to increase, forming an ecological environment similar to that of Zhutian. Life forms such as blue-green algae, trilobites, peculiar shrimp, nautilus, coral, primitive jellyfish, arthropods, crustaceans, and primitive fish have appeared in the ocean one by one, and have gradually become extinct. Later on, green began to spread from the ocean to land, and some organisms that failed to compete in the ocean evolved into arthropods and amphibians. With the expansion of plants, they also set foot on new territories and officially entered the land. Until now, giant trees and beasts are everywhere on the land of Tianyuan star, interpreting the cruel and bloody natural laws of the jungle of the fittest, survival of the fittest, and survival of the fittest. Countless extinct prehistoric beasts on the ancestral planet, such as saber-toothed tigers, mammoths, emperor crocodiles, and various dinosaurs, can be found in this world. There are even creatures that have never appeared in the ancestral star, such as 2-headed snakes, 3-headed wolves, 4-winged birds, winged horses, and so on. This is a creature that has undergone a long evolution and is unique to Tianyuan star. Wen Dao looked down on the vast world and was extremely satisfied. In just 7 days, which is the 700,000 years of the Tianyuan realm, we have completed the billions of years of biological evolution of our ancestral planet. It's not in vain for me to collect the genes of all the creatures on the ancestral planet, and to spend a lot of world tree resources to accelerate the speed of evolution. In these 7 days, in order to enable the evolution of creatures within the heavenly Yuan realm that can master extraordinary powers and create an extraordinary environment. Wen Dao almost converts all the original energy into a lower-level active energy that can be absorbed by living organisms. It is named Tianyuan by Wen Dao, which means the most primitive energy that constitutes all things in heaven and earth. The vitality of heaven and earth can accelerate the speed of biological metabolism, and also help organisms inherit excellent genes, allowing their descendants to evolve in a better direction. However, due to the suppression of the physical rules of the main universe, the energy of heaven and earth will continuously degrade into less active ordinary energy, matter, or space within a year, used to continuously expand the size of the Tianyuan star and Tianyuan realm. This is still the result of Wen Dao's efforts to control the world tree and resist the laws of the Tianyuan realm world. Otherwise, if placed on the ancestral star, the moment when the vitality of heaven and earth appears, it will be eroded into cosmic background radiation energy by the physical rules of the demon-free world. So we want to ensure that the concentration of heaven and earth's elemental energy is maintained to a certain extent, so that the creatures in the Tianyuan realm are always in a rapidly evolving environment. Upon hearing the Tao, it is necessary to periodically transform some of its origin into the elemental energy of heaven and earth. What makes me even more gratified is that the tiny world of Tianyuan finally no longer needs the seedlings of the world tree and continues to fill the coffin book. Seeing the remaining over 2,000 drops of the original source on the system panel, I heard a sigh of emotion. As early as the 5th day, the remaining 100,000 drops of the original source from the creation of the Tianyuan realm in the world tree were almost exhausted. However, the Tianyuan realm, which gave birth to various complex creatures, began to feed back the world tree from then on. For some unknown reason, the true spirits of life, from birth to death, were able to cross the membranes of the world and draw less than 1/1000th or 1/10th of the chaos energy from the chaotic sea, to strengthen their souls. And the more complex the life form and the larger the body size of the creatures, the stronger their true souls at birth, and the more chaotic energy they can absorb daily. However, the extra soul energy in this part will be continuously consumed with their daily activities, dissipating towards heaven and earth, and feeding the world back. The stronger the strength of life and the longer they live, the more energy they can feed back to the world in their lifetime. Moreover, after the death of life, its soul will decompose and dissipate in heaven and earth, feeding back the last bit of energy to the heavenly Yuan realm. Perhaps the energy that a life feeds back in its lifetime is insignificant, but in the accelerated 700,000 years, there are so many lives born and died in the Tianyuan realm, and the combined energy they feed back is also a considerable amount. So, the heavenly Yuan realm has been able to maintain the concentration of heaven and earth's elemental energy without decreasing, from initially requiring the world tree to perform a reverse attachment of the origin and create all living beings. As a world of tiny dust, the Tianyuan realm can draw 7 or 8 drops of its origin from the chaos sea each year. In addition, the energy that is fed back by the decomposition of the souls of dead creatures will increase by about 2 or 3 drops, and approximately 10 drops of its origin can be obtained in a year. Compared to the speed at which the seedlings of the world tree can absorb dozens of drops of origin in a day, it can be said to be as slow as a snail. Only the heavenly Yuan realm needs to transform some of the world's origins into the heavenly and heavenly energy, maintain the concentration of heavenly and heavenly energy without decreasing, and create a minimum degree of extraordinary environment. So the Tianyuan realm can accumulate a drop of origin every 10 years. But Sheng is located in a spatial interlayer with a high time flow velocity in the Tianyuan realm, and can undergo a certain degree of time acceleration. So after more than 100,000 years of accumulation, the number of origins can still be left in the tens of thousands. As for the future, with the increase of the level of the Tianyuan realm, such as upgrading to the Hengsha world, or the birth of intelligent civilization in the world, it will further advance in the world of dust. The speed at which the Tianyuan realm absorbs chaotic energy will greatly increase, and its efficiency will gradually become on par with the seedlings of the world tree. At that time, the Tianyuan realm can greatly feed back the world tree. Looking at the vibrant Tianyuan realm, a thought flashed through Wen Dao's mind. There are still over 18,000 drops of origin left. It's time for the Tianyuan realm to give birth to civilization, which can allow humans to evolve. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. New Humans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. New humans. In order to successfully establish an extraordinary system and promote it on the ancestral planet, Wen Dao decided to create the first intelligent creature, which was humans. After all, only in this way can we more likely establish an extraordinary system that conforms to the biological structure of our ancestors. Wen Dao watched the world log for more than 10 hours, and it was already evening. The first business of Chaoshi Pavilion, which had been open for several years, officially ended. Today, I heard that I sold a few ordinary antique items left by my grandfather. Although the price is not high, it is still a good start. Adjust the time flow rate back to the normal ratio, and Wen Dao will once again descend into the heavenly Yuan realm from the second-floor portal, preparing to lead the birth of human civilization. After 700,000 years of geological movement, the original terrain and landforms of Tianyuan star have already changed beyond recognition. For example, the high mountain that was originally connected to the second-floor portal, towering into the clouds and overlooking the small mountains, has now become an ordinary peak, with an altitude of over 1,000 meters lower. Upon hearing this, I climbed high and looked into the distance, observing the surrounding environment. I discovered that the peak was located in a small mountain range that stretches for more than tens of miles and faces the sea on one side. To the south, west, and north of the mountain range lies a vast plain, surrounded by towering rocks. The primitive trees that grow here are extremely lush, and various natural resources are abundant. Countless wild animals hide and survive here. Due to the extremely high annual precipitation in the plain, there are numerous rivers and water bodies scattered throughout, winding and winding like a huge network of water, covering hundreds of miles in an area. Hundreds or thousands of rivers, big or small, will eventually converge into a large river that runs through the entire plain, merging into the vast ocean from an estuary on the east side of the mountain range. After examining it, Wen Dao was extremely satisfied and said, "The climate here is warm and suitable, with abundant resources. It is actually an excellent breeding ground and can be used as one of the experimental sites for the evolution of new humans. So now let's select some samples for experimentation and see in which environment the samples have more potential to evolve into humans." Upon hearing this, the creation system immediately selected over 20,000 monkeys from the heavenly Yuan realm as experimental samples and appeared in front of him in an instant. Suddenly, a new environment changed, and these monkeys were startled and panicked, wanting to escape from this unfamiliar area. But with just one glance, they immediately quieted down and huddled together trembling. Next, Wen Dao numbered the monkeys and divided them into 137 experimental groups, with 100 males and 100 females each. The optimized ancestral human gene sequence was implanted into their bodies. Later, Wen Dao placed them in different regions of Tianyuan star, allowing them to freely survive and reproduce, adapt to the environment, and evolve into humans. 10 groups of apes and monkeys were placed on this plain, while others were either placed on a certain island, in vast pristine tropical rainforests, or in cooler northern grasslands, and so on. Time acceleration. 100,000 times. The sun and moon over Tianyuan star began to rotate rapidly, and time kept passing by. Only the area between Wen Dao's location remained unchanged, and even synchronized with the time of the ancestral star. Nowadays, after being baptized by the origin of the world tree, the body and soul have undergone transformation and become non-human beings, no longer requiring sleep to restore energy. So it's a good time to take advantage of the night to directly observe the biological evolution within the Tianyuan realm. Wen Dao is like a ghost of time, separated from normal time and space like an invisible thin film. Ordinary creatures cannot even see his figure. Under the acceleration of time, in the eyes of Wen Dao, who can freely switch between God's perspective and normal perspective, the entire world is like a video playing at over 30 million times the speed, with new changes occurring in the Tianyuan realm every second. These 2,000 monkeys implanted with human genes have successfully settled in this plane. The abundant resources and favorable climate greatly reduce their survival pressure. So they began to reproduce continuously, giving birth to new offspring one by one. The offspring grew and continued to reproduce, quickly reproducing for more than 10 generations, and the number multiplied several times. And under the special guidance of the creation system, the human genes in the monkey bodies of various experimental groups were continuously optimized, gradually occupying a dominant position, and some human characteristics began to emerge. The human evolution process is ongoing within the Tianyuan realm, and the world logs of the creation system are also being updated synchronously. In the 725,372 year of the Tianyuan realm, after 20,000 years of evolution, the primitive ape man who walked upright finally appeared. They gathered by the river, lived in caves, and were able to use tools easily, giving birth to the initial civilization in the first 2,000 to 3,000 years. 10 groups of apes and monkeys that lived on this plain lived in primitive forests according to their original habits, relying on collecting wild fruits and hunting some small animals to reproduce. However, with the optimization of human genes, the intellectual development of monkey brains has made rapid progress, and the nutrition of only wild fruits, insects, and small animals is no longer sufficient to meet their daily consumption and development. Meanwhile, in recent years, apes and monkeys have multiplied for hundreds or even thousands of generations, and the population has increased many times. The increase in ethnic groups means that the demand for food will also greatly increase. Even if this plain has a warm climate and abundant resources, it cannot withstand their constant survival in one place. So, as food gradually became scarce, apes and monkeys descended from primitive trees and began to expand their range of activity, attempting to work together to hunt large wild animals and obtain more carnivorous nutrients. During this process, the apes suffered heavy casualties, with unknown yet unfamiliar environments and unknown yet fierce beasts, causing them to hover on the brink of extinction. Fortunately, they survived and successfully walked from the tree to the ground. Over the next 10,000 years, apes and monkeys further evolved. The dense hair on the surface of the body gradually fades away, just to allow the body to dissipate heat better, thereby prolonging the time it spends chasing prey and exhausting them to death. In order to better hunt their prey, they learn to use natural weapons that can be seen everywhere in nature. Stones and fallen wooden sticks. With simple intelligence, in order to avoid natural disasters such as rain and snow and the hunting of wild animals, they lived in caves and made clothes from leaves and animal skins to resist the cold. Meanwhile, long-term labor and the use of tools have further enhanced the expression of human genes in their bodies. Their forelimbs have evolved to be liberated, allowing them to walk upright. In the 25,000 year of the experiment, these monkeys successfully evolved into ape humans. You already know how to walk upright and use stone tools. Wen Dao glanced at the world log and nodded slightly. It seems that evolution is good. The genes of the ancestral humans have saved them many detours. On an autumn day in the 732nd millennium, the eastern plains experienced an extremely ordinary thunderstorm weather. However, the brave attempt of a primitive ape man made this day extraordinary, and the spark of civilization was born. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Civilization Spark. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Civilization Spark. Tianyuan Star, the eastern plain of the mainland. Black clouds cover the sky, countless thunder snakes shuttle and dance wildly in the clouds, and raindrops as big as grains of rice pour down, turning heaven and earth into rolling rain curtains. Boom boom. A thick lightning bolt pierced through the sky, shattering the dense branches and leaves of the primitive forest, hitting the thick withered leaves on the ground. The high temperature immediately ignited the withered leaves and caused flames, followed by a raging mountain fire in the strong wind, quickly spreading throughout the primitive forest. The pouring rain, blocked by layers of dense leaves, had become much sparser when it fell to the ground, and was not enough to extinguish the raging wildfire. The sky is filled with thunderstorms, and the ground is howling with wind and fire. Rolling smoke filled the sky and earth, and countless ancient trees that had grown for decades or hundreds of years collapsed in the fire, becoming new fuel for the wildfires. Faced with such a natural disaster, countless wild beasts ran and hid in fear, but to no avail, being roasted alive and cooked in the scorching fire in high temperature. As for the several primitive ape-human populations living near the forest, they can only huddle in caves and dare not go hunting. This mountain fire burned for 4 days and 4 nights before slowly extinguishing, and large forests were reduced to scorched earth, with countless animal carcasses lying in the ruins. At this point, the primitive apes, who had been hiding in the cave for several days and had already been hungry and cold, dared to come out and pick up some ripe wild animal carcasses to go back for food. One of the apes walked cautiously on the slightly scorched earth ruins, surrounded by lingering flames swaying in the breeze, ready to extinguish at any moment. This primitive ape man stood in front of a black bear corpse, surrounded by a cluster of burning branches of dead wood. The flames scorched half of the bear's body, but the aroma emitted was strong. He, who had already filled his stomach, ignored the black bear corpse and stared straight at the flames. He felt the warmth emanating from the flames, feeling extremely fearful but also extremely eager. In a daze, he seemed to see a human face from the flames. "That's the face of the gods." The ape-man suddenly heard an ethereal voice that seemed to come from beyond, guiding him to overcome his fear and pick up the burning wood. Finally, under the guidance of the gods, the ape-man overcame the fear from deep within his genes, enduring the high temperature and grabbing the branches. From then on, the humans of Tianyuan star mastered the power of flames. At this moment, a civilization breath that is completely different from the ancestral star and belongs exclusively to the Tianyuan realm was born. This trace of civilization, although insignificant, is not worth mentioning at all. But it is a good start, representing the spark of civilization in the Tianyuan realm, and is the embryonic form of a civilization. In the future, it will nurture a unique and brilliant Tianyuan star civilization. The Chuangjie system collected this strand of civilized atmosphere at the first time. When more civilized breath is collected in the future, the creative system will condense it into a seed of civilization. Until it sprouts and grows into a tree of civilization, condensing brilliant fruits of civilization. At that time, Wen Dao will naturally come to harvest this fruit. Of course, this process will be very lengthy. On the other hand, the primitive ape human's mastery of flames and the birth of the embryonic form of the Tianyuan star civilization greatly promoted the development of the Tianyuan realm. Make various laws of heaven and earth within the Tianyuan realm increasingly perfect and powerful, and get closer to the mid-level dust world. Time continued to pass, and by the 75th year, the experimental subjects of the Creator God could no longer see the appearance of apes, and they had completely evolved into primitive humans. The size of the primitive human population is becoming increasingly large. In order to obtain larger living space and food, their range of activities gradually spread from the experimental field of the Creator God to various parts of Tianyuan star, and Tianyuan star officially entered the tribal era from the perspective of God. The primitive human populations placed in different regions, except for a few that have become extinct due to epidemics, natural disasters, and fierce beasts, have mostly thrived and thrived well. The large population accumulated over a long period of time prompted them to constantly split and expand outward, and the footprints of primitive humans began to spread throughout the world. Various primitive human groups have formed different habitats based on their living environments in different regions. In the plains, primitive people learned to use stones to create simple agricultural tools, and began to plant crops such as mulberry and hemp, embarking on primitive agriculture. The primitive people located in the mountains learned to domesticate wild animals and raise livestock, and began animal husbandry. Primitive humans near the seaside, lakes, and water currents learned to weave fishing nets to catch fish. During this period, primitive humans completely mastered the method of drilling wood for fire, learned to raise and use fire, and also learned to use trees and stones to actively build houses and villages. Because of this kind of behavior and invention that is of great help to the development of civilization, Tianyuan star will have countless strands of civilization breath born every once in a while, constantly merging into the creation system. The seeds of civilization in the Tianyuan realm are condensing at a stable speed. During the continuous evolution of primitive humans on Tianyuan star, other organisms did not stop their pace of evolution. There is an active energy of heaven and earth energy within Tianyuan star, which can accelerate biological evolution and make gene sequences extremely active. Two siblings born from a living organism may exhibit significant differences in their inherited genes after decades of reproduction, evolving into different species. However, due to the limited investment in the original energy of Wen Dao every year and the suppression of the physical rules of the main universe, the concentration of Tianyuan stars' heaven and earth elemental energy has always been relatively low. The content in the air is much rarer than rare gases, only about 1 in 10,000. Normally, ordinary organisms cannot feel it and cannot actively absorb the vitality of heaven and earth. Most of the time, they passively receive the baptism of heaven and earth's vitality, and are unable to actively preserve it in their bodies. However, anything is possible. In the process of evolution, there will eventually be some plants growing in areas with relatively strong vitality of heaven and earth, and they will be immersed in the vitality of heaven and earth for years to come. In addition, the creator god Wen Dao has been secretly guiding the emergence of extraordinary system power within the heavenly Yuan realm, so that these plants can retain some of the vitality of heaven and earth during the process of swallowing air, and evolve into high-energy plants, such as Zhugua and Lingji. Later on, some lucky animals devoured these high-energy plants and successfully absorbed the heaven and earth energy contained in them. The heaven and earth energy condensed to a certain concentration will actively promote the further improvement of their genetic sequences, enhancing their strength, speed, neural response speed, and so on. Even their intelligence has improved, still not as good as humans. Their life levels underwent a transformation as a result, with some of their internal organs evolving into extraordinary organs, becoming the first group of extraordinary creatures on Tianyuan star. However, no matter how they transform, the strongest strength among these extraordinary creatures is several times stronger than large giant beasts such as saber-toothed tigers and tyrannosaurs. After all, true dragons cannot be raised in shallow water. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Midrange Dust World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Midrange Dust World. The heavenly Yuan realm is just a tiny dust world, and the concentration of active energy such as heaven and earth energy is too low, which is barely better than the demon-free world where the ancestral star is located. So no powerful extraordinary creatures can be born. They possess only a slightly more powerful physical power and cannot cast spells or magic such as fireballs, ice arrows, and wind blades like the demon races and beasts in the novel storybook. In order to give birth to stronger and more extraordinary creatures and develop a complete extraordinary system within the Tianyuan realm, it is necessary to increase the concentration of heaven and earth's elemental energy. In other words, smelling the Tao requires investing more original energy. But now that the heavenly Yuan realm has just started, he has not yet nurtured too many origins of the Wen Dao. Now, the number of origins in his hands is only over 10,000 drops. Even if all the resources are invested, it will only lead to a significant increase in the concentration of vitality in the Tianyuan realm for thousands of years. But under the acceleration of 100,000 times, thousands of years are just fleeting clouds and fleeting. We still need to wait for the level of human civilization in this world to rise further, giving birth to language and writing, and transitioning from the Stone Age to the Bronze Age. At that time, the heavenly Yuan realm will inevitably become a mid-level dust world, and the speed of absorbing the origin will increase slightly, even receiving massive rewards from the main universe and the Chaos Sea. At that time, we can accelerate time to 1,000 or 100 times, invest massive resources, and create a stable and more intense extraordinary environment. Wen Dao stands on the sky, overlooking the heavens and earth, watching the multitude of beings constantly striving for the survival and reproduction of their ethnic group. The spark of human civilization has been born, and now all you need to do is wait quietly for it to burn brightly. Upon hearing this, I took a step out and the next moment I returned to Chaoshi Pavilion. It's already dawn on Zhuxiang's side, and he's also starting a new day of business. The southern plain is one of the birthplaces of human civilization on Tianyuan star. On this vast plain spanning thousands of miles, there are hundreds of primitive human tribes of all sizes scattered. The larger tribes have thousands of people, while the smaller ones have only a few dozen humans, and the primitive social structure within the tribes has already been formed. Due to the emergence of agriculture, animal husbandry, and fishing, the settlements of human tribes gradually settled and formed their own specific spheres of influence. Of course, hunting wild animals still exists. After all, with the low level of productivity in primitive society, the food obtained from agriculture, animal husbandry, and fishing was not enough to solve the daily consumption of the tribe. So, it is very necessary to go hunting outside. In a medium-sized tribe with hundreds of ethnic groups, its terrain is situated by mountains and rivers. A large river flows out of the mountains, passing through this tribe, and the surrounding flat and wide areas are planned with fields. On one side of the river, rudimentary yellow mud houses and thatched cottages are scattered in the mountain jungle, with stone fences on the periphery as a warning to prevent wild animals from entering the tribe and injuring people. Except for young children and children under the age of 7 or 8, everyone in the tribe performs their own duties, either casting nets to fish, farming on the land, or going out for hunting, presenting a primitive and barbaric style. As the sky grew late, the tribe members who went out hunting returned to the tribe with their prey. A primitive man with a tall horse and a strong back, dragging prey from the primitive forest, including elk, roe deer, wild rabbits, and even a jungle hegemon. A wild boar. Seeing the hunting team returning with a large number of prey, everyone in this tribe couldn't help but shout, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa," and occasionally make a few strange sounds. A raging bonfire was lit in the tribal center, and the hunting tribe respectfully placed their prey in front of an elderly primitive wearing animal skins. The old man picked up sharp stones and carved simple and abstract pictures of wild animals on a wooden board. He took out ropes made of wild grass and tied them in knots to record the types and numbers of hunting prey. Obviously, after tens of thousands of years of evolution, intellectual development has approached the mature primitive humans of the Tianyuan realm. In order to better express oneself and record the production and consumption of the tribe in daily communication with the tribe, we have begun to explore the initial language and writing. But now it seems that their writing and language systems are still very immature. But at the current rate of evolution, it can be foreseen that a systematic language and civilization will soon emerge within the Tianyuan realm, a civilization system unique to the Tianyuan realm. This world has never lacked geniuses. Time is still passing by at a rate of 100,000 times. In the 781,000 year of the Tianyuan realm, the Tianyuan human race Z collected and organized various tribal communication methods, observing the changes of all things in heaven and earth, the movement of the sun, moon, stars, and the footprints and images of birds, beasts, insects, and fish. After more than 10 years, they created the first hundreds of hieroglyphs. As the hieroglyphs created by Z spread, more and more tribes began to use this type of writing, and the primitive languages of many tribes within a radius of hundreds of miles gradually tended to be consistent. In the 71st year of the Tianyuan realm, Zhutian happened to be at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening, and the Chaoshi pavilion closed for business. Looking at the world log, I saw that someone had invented the original hieroglyphs. Upon hearing this, my interest greatly increased and I immediately entered the Tianyuan realm. After Wen Dao saw that Z had created characters, he did not hide them, but instead promoted and imparted them to other tribes. The dissemination of words has further liberated the wisdom of humans in the Tianyuan realm, greatly promoting the development of civilization, and countless cultural atmospheres have been nurtured. The creation system within the body of Wen Dao began to crazily absorb the increasing civilized aura between heaven and earth. Puff. Finally, when the hieroglyphs created by Z were promoted throughout the entire Tianyuan star, the accumulation of civilization breath reached a certain limit, and suddenly an illusory civilization seed appeared. Although it is very illusory now, as if it will turn into nothingness in the next moment, it cannot be compared to the solidified and almost sprouting seeds of the various Xia civilizations. But it is ultimately a civilization seed exclusively belonging to the Tianyuan realm, representing a new stage of the intelligent civilization level of the Tianyuan realm. The improvement of civilization level also feeds back on the Tianyuan realm itself, promoting the development of the world, and elevating it directly from a lower-level dust world to a middle-level dust world. Boom boom boom. At the level of the heavenly Dao that ordinary people cannot perceive, the heavenly Yuan realm undergoes tremendous changes, and countless laws of heaven and earth undergo transformations, becoming even stronger. This increases the speed at which the heavenly Yuan realm can absorb the chaotic energy, and it can already absorb 10 drops of the world's origin in a year. Most importantly, this promotion to the world has also received recognition from the main universe and the Chaos Sea. A vast source of energy, from an unknown place, flows through the world's membranes and into the heavenly Yuan realm, with a total of no less than 100,000. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Merit in Heaven and Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Merit in Heaven and Earth Master. Wen Dao Identity. Creator, and Lord of the World Tree. Seedling stage creating the world. Tianyuan realm, medium dust world, civilization achievements. Civilization seeds, 2, Zhutian civilization seeds, Tianyuan star civilization seeds, number of sources. 125742 drops World Journal. Seeing the skyrocketing number of origins on the panel of the creation system, Wen Dao felt very relieved and excited. This is the way of creation and civilization. The growth of intelligent civilization in the world can feed back and promote world development. The more prosperous civilization is, the faster the world develops. And every growth and upgrade of the world will receive praise from the main universe and the chaotic sea, earning a generous source. In this way, I only need to constantly create the world and cultivate unique and different intelligent civilizations in the world, and then I can obtain enough resources to support the growth of the world tree. Moreover, creating more worlds and cultivating more civilizations will give me greater confidence in leveraging the rules of the main universe, thereby joining the extraordinary system and initiating spiritual revival. Wen Dao's eyes were incredibly bright. You should know that this was just a promotion from the lower level of the dust world to the middle level of the dust world, which earned nearly 100,000 primordia. If we upgrade from a small world of dust to a small world of constant sand, will we directly obtain millions of origins? What about upgrading to the Tianyuan small world? The more I want to hear the Tao, the more excited I become. I wish I could elevate the heavenly Yuan realm directly to the Tianyuan small world and obtain a massive source to support the growth of the world tree seedlings. But Wen Dao also knows that as the world grows, it becomes more and more difficult. Every growth and upgrade requires a long time to accumulate foundation. Things like creating language and writing, if placed in the small world of Hengsha, can only slightly promote world development and cannot be elevated to a small level. Upon hearing this, he looked at Z, who had created the celestial element astrological characters, and his gaze was extremely satisfied. The heavenly Dao is the most righteous, and any merit will be rewarded. If you make a huge contribution to the development of the heavenly Yuan realm, you will naturally receive the reward of the Creator God. I will grant you a lifetime without illness or disaster, extending your life by 100 years, and ensuring that your descendants are protected by heaven and earth for 100 generations. For civilized heroes like Z, Wen Daosi is not stingy, abandoning all the merits of heaven and earth and integrating into Z's body. Below, in a large tribe, Z, who was teaching texts to everyone, suddenly felt warm all over, recovering from all the injuries he had suffered while crossing mountains in the past. The slightly grayish hair turned dark, the wrinkles on the face became smooth, and the body seemed to be several decades younger, even healthier than some young men. What's going on? Zizi was surprised and didn't know what was happening to his body. And those who were learning writing were shocked to see Zizi's hair turn from white to black, his face turn youthful, and he immediately knelt on the ground, calling out for miracles in the world and worshipping him as a deity. Later generations have also passed down the myth and legend that the ancestor Z was favored by the heavenly gods, returned to life overnight, and ascended to the upper realm to become a god after death. Unfortunately, the heavenly Yuan realm is only a world of dust and cannot establish the function of reincarnation. Otherwise, Wen Dao would still make every life in Zizi prosperous and prosperous. In addition to rewarding Zizi with the merits of heaven and earth, Wen Dao also incorporated some of his merits into the stone tablet in Zizi's hand, accompanying him on countless tribes and engraved with the first hundreds of hieroglyphs. This writing tablet bears witness to the changes and development of writing in the Tianyuan realm, and records the initial writing of Tianyuan star. It is undoubtedly a treasure of civilization. With the transformation and protection of the merits of heaven and earth, its material undergoes earth-shattering changes, becoming harder than any metal in Tianyuan star and capable of being passed down for eternity. And under the transformation of the rules of heaven and earth, it has added a new function. In the future, any text that develops or changes from hieroglyphs on Tianyuan star will be automatically imprinted on this writing tablet. As one of the important objects for the development of civilization in the Tianyuan realm, it is eligible for such treatment. Wen Dao smiled lightly. If future humans forget this treasure of civilization, I can also take it to the Chaoshi Pavilion and sell it as an antique. Well, that's a good idea. A faint and imperceptible laughter spread between heaven and earth, while the figure of Wen Dao became blurred and disappeared without a trace. The story of Zizi's rejuvenation spread on Tianyuan star, and humans from various tribes regarded him as a spokesperson for gods in the human world. The words he spread were also gifts from gods to humans, calling Zizi the Great Wise. As a result, some tribes that originally opposed hieroglyphs began to actively learn, and the promotion of hieroglyphs reached an unprecedented level. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 years have passed, and Z, protected by merit, has traveled across the 4 seas and 8 wastelands of Tianyuan star, seeing countless landscapes, and finally returned to the tribe where he grew up. This tribe is called the Wen tribe by people. At the same time, Z imparts to the world hundreds of new hieroglyphs created along the way based on various things, creatures, phenomena, etc., making human expression of all things in heaven and earth more diverse. 100 years later, the Yuan tribe of Zizi, who lived a lifetime without illness or disaster, passed away and was buried in Yuanshan. People revered him as their ancestor. And that written stone tablet, as a sacred object, has been passed down from generation to generation in the Wen tribe and is worshipped by the tribe's people. Chaoshi Pavilion. Wen Dao sat cross-legged on the bed, gazing inside at the world tree seedlings in his soul. The birth of the seed of Tianyuan civilization has further relaxed the suppression of the world tree by the rules of the main universe. The seedlings of the world tree sway slightly, with 2 emerald green tender leaves overflowing with light. Countless laws and paths flow on it, an endless void around it constantly grows and dies. Upon hearing the Tao, a seemingly tiny root of the world tree suddenly penetrated the vast space and appeared instantly in the depths of the earth's crust. The scorching liquid metal flow has no effect on the world tree. During the trembling of that beard, countless energies in the center of the earth were absorbed and transformed into the original energy belonging to the world tree. A few minutes later, Wen Dao opened his eyes and a brilliant light flashed out, calling for soul capturing and soul grabbing. Wen Dao was filled with joy and said, "Not bad, the suppression of the main universe has decreased, allowing the world tree to come out of my body. However, the roots cannot be too far away and can only absorb the energy of the ancestral star. The consciousness of Wen Dao can use the spatial ability of the world tree to travel anywhere on the ancestral star. Unfortunately, the energy of ancestral star cannot be absorbed recklessly. In order not to affect the ecological environment of ancestral star, I can only absorb up to 5 or 6 drops of the original source per day. After all, Zhutian is the parent planet of Wen Dao, and Wen Dao cannot absorb its energy without restraint. Once the energy of the Earth's core is insufficient, it will affect the movement of crustal plates, thereby affecting the ecological environment on the surface." End of this chapter.